genre.
Welcome back to The Doctor's Companion Presents Doctor Who The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cassandra Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And today on the show, we'll be discussing Pyramids of Mars, the Fourth Doctor's 8th story.
First thing that everyone should know about this story is that it is written by Stephen Harris, who is a person who does not exist. Not a real person. It is a pseudonym. Basically, what happened was that Robert Holmes, who was the script editor at this time, was determined to find new writers, fresh blood on Doctor Who, because they've been sort of rolling around with the same writers, off and on since the start of the show. And so he was very determined to get some fresh blood. So determined, in fact, that he went to a man named Louis Griefer, a former colleague of his at ATV. Griefer had an interest in Egyptian mythology, and so Holmes suggested that he develop a scenario which would combine science fiction with the trappings of mummy horror films, such as 1932's Universal picture The Mummy, and of course the 1959 Hammer Films production of the same name. Griefer agreed and submitted a prospective storyline around the start of July 1974. So I'm going to go into what his version of this story was, because this was also, they would change a few things from this, but this was pretty close to what he ended up turning in. So this is what the plot of his mummy-esque Doctor Who story would be. The Doctor and his companion, referred to as Jane in the outline, attended a conference on food reserves at the British Museum along with Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart of the United Nations Intelligence Task Force. It was suggested in the outline that the Brigadier would be killed off early in the adventure.
Whoa.
The Doctor's friend, Professor Fozzie, and his partner, Dr. Robertson, were there to unveil their work on a new type of grain which could flourish on the surface of the moon, thereby solving the world's hunger problems. Because, of course, logically, that makes the most sense. However, the conference was soon attacked by the crocodile-like Egyptian god Sutekh and his army of mummies. Sutekh and his master Seth were aliens who came to Earth millennia ago intent on conquest, but were placed in suspended animation via a powerful artifact called the Eye, wielded by Horus, another of their kind. Having reawakened, Seth and Sutekh now intended to replace Fozzie and Robertson's grain with a type which would result in the moon's disintegration, which in turn would have catastrophic effects on Earth. So the Doctor manages to locate Seth's resting place beneath an Egyptian pyramid and was assisted by Horus and another deity, Isis, in defeating Seth and destroying the probe, which carried the grain in mid-flight. So,
that's wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So this Louis Griefer guy wrote a story that, like, I don't even know what to call what I just read.
Ambitious. I call it ambitious.
Ambitious? Okay. I would say a mess, like a disaster. I none of that makes any sense. It's so convoluted, and baffling, and, seems to suggest that this guy, maybe writing isn't his, like, main forte.
I like the inclusion of Sutekh, the crocodile god.
Yeah.
That would have looked Sutekh.
Sobek?
Sobek.
Sobek. Okay, Sobek. All right.
That would have looked really cool in 1980.
Right? Just like a paper mache crocodile mask.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously Robert Holmes had some misgivings on Griefer's understanding of Doctor Who's format. But met with the author shortly after getting this outline, and they fleshed out the ideas for what would now be called the Pyramids of Mars. He suggested that the would-be gods should actually be from Mars, having fled the planet after it was devastated by an intergalactic war. Holmes disliked the notion of the special grain and instead recommended that the Earth project involve the transformation of Mars's surface into a habitable environment. Habitable. Seth would attempt to hijack the mission, his goal being to fire a rocket at the Great Pyramid of Mars, where his jailers still slept in suspended animation. Holmes also encouraged Griefer to establish scientific explanations for some of the supernatural phenomenon he described. And then Hinchcliffe thought that the Egyptian gods might actually originate from different planets outside our solar system, explaining why their physical forms vary greatly. Like, you know, how some are like, I don't know, some are crocodiles and others are other things. They're all just different aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're all just different aliens, and they're like a fellowship of aliens.
You shall be the fellowship of the aliens.
Yeah. Fellowship of Mars.
Even better.
Actually, that would be a great title for a Doctor Who episode, The Fellowship of Mars. That's good.
Scott, write down.
So after all of these changes, Holmes formally commissioned Griefer to write Pyramids of Mars on July 8th. And then as he started turning things in, basically things went from bad to worse. So Griefer delivers his scripts on September 23rd. On October 7th, Holmes cautioned him that he was straying too far away from the mummy horror movie premise. Matters deteriorated from there. First, Griefer was taken badly ill and required surgery, delaying the completion of the final 3 installments. Then, Holmes discovered that the finished scripts were unsuitable for production, failing to tie up key plot points and lacking a suitable emphasis on the Doctor's involvement. And then in late November, Griefer left England for Tel Aviv University in Israel, where he had previously committed to a teaching position. So basically, he wrote 4 bad scripts and then bailed.
Oh my God.
At this point, in March of 75, now we are now, when he first approached him, this was spring of 74. So it's been basically a full year since he first approached this guy to write this story. And now in March of 75, Holmes informed Griefer's agent that his client's scripts would be abandoned. And with production looming, Holmes was forced to rewrite the adventure from scratch. So Robert Holmes wrote this story from scratch, using nothing from Griefer's concepts or plot. He moved everything to 1911. He tried to give it more of a horror feel rather than like this weird celestial feel that the other story did. He added the Doctor into it more. He gave more for the companion to do. Basically rewrote it from scratch. But because the original draft of this was written by someone else, BBC rules dictated that Holmes could not take any credit for himself. However, it is because of this story that Philip Hinchcliffe, the producer at the time, went to BBC head of serials and was like, "Hey,
this guy wrote 4 bad scripts." And
this guy wrote 4 bad scripts. Robert Holmes, my script editor, had to rewrite all of these from scratch. Isn't it kind of bullshit that he's not getting any credit for these? And he's like, okay, I can't change anything about that now, but we will change the rule in the future so that a script editor can take credit on scripts in the future if the situation presents itself. So that ruling was changed because of Pyramids of Mars.
So history was changed.
Yeah. So Louis Griefer read the scripts that Robert Holmes rewrote, basically hated them and wanted his name taken off of them. And as a result, the fictional character of Stephen Harris was born. Because Robert Holmes couldn't take credit for the scripts that he wrote from page 1, and Louis Griefer did not want credit. And so Stephen Harris was the fictional writer Stephen Harris took credit instead. So that's the biggest thing with Pyramids of Mars. Everything else is just like kind of super minor stuff. They moved episodes around. There was a bit with I'm sorry. going back to the credits thing about Hinchcliffe's request for Robert Holmes on behalf of Robert Holmes. So the rule was that they could not be credited, and because they could not be credited, they could not be paid for their rewrites. And so what he changed was like, okay, fine, they don't get a credit, but like, please let me pay him.
Yeah.
For these scripts. And so that was the change. That was the thing that was changed. So as a result of Pyramids of Mars, script editors could be paid script writing fees, but they could not receive credit for those scripts. And so that's what the rule change happened with the head of serials and the BBC. So thankfully Robert Holmes did get paid for writing these stories, even if he isn't credited. But in a way, isn't he credited? Because we all know that he wrote this. Mm-hmm. It's pretty famously known that this is a Robert Holmes story, and that no one else wrote these, despite that other guy giving it his best shot, I guess, question mark. So yeah, the only other thing about Pyramids of Mars is that they moved it around. It was supposed to be first of the season and actually feature Harry leaving instead of in Terror of the Zygons. But because again, it was supposed to take place modern day, not in 1911. It was supposed to feature a unit. And so a lot of that stuff was moved to Terror of the Zygons, minus the death of the Brigadier. And Harry left in Death of the Zygons instead. And then Pyramids of Mars was brought to the second story. And then they were like, well, we don't want to have two Earthbound stories in a row. So they moved it to third so that a non-Earthbound story could be set between Zygons and Pyramids of Mars. And that's how the structure went. That's it. That's, I mean, the writing thing is the biggest behind the scenes story point of this. There's a couple of other things, but I want to get to them as they happen in the story because they're more directly related to the plot of Pyramids of Mars. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, but I'll wait until those moments happen in the story themselves. But that's Pyramids of Mars.
Pyramids of Mars Part 1, written by Stephen Harris, directed by Patty Russell, produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, script edited by Robert Holmes. Air date October 25th, 1975. In 1911 Egypt, archaeology professor Marcus Scarman excavates a pyramid and finds the door to a burial chamber that is inscribed with the Eye of Horus. His assistants flee as he enters the chamber alone and is hit by a beam of green light. The Fourth Doctor, intending to land at unit headquarters, instead ends up in the sealed wing of an English estate after the TARDIS is forced out of the time vortex and Sarah Jane sees a mysterious apparition in the console room. They are discovered by the butler, who tells them they are in the Scarman estate and that the house has been taken over by an Egyptian named Ibrahim Namin, who claims to represent Professor Scarman. Scarman's friend, Dr. Warlock, has also arrived to demand an explanation from Namin on Scarman's whereabouts. The Egyptian pulls a gun on Dr. Warlock, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane manage to prevent his murder, though Warlock is wounded. The three escape the estate, but Namin and a robot dressed like an Egyptian mummy follow after them. After hiding in the woods from the mummies, the three find a hunting lodge used by Scarman's brother Lawrence, whose Marconiscope intercepted a signal from Mars. The Doctor decodes the signal as, "Beware Sutekh." Sutekh is the last of a powerful alien race called the Osirans, and his imprisonment by his brother Horus was the apparent inspiration for ancient Egyptian mythology. The Doctor decides to go back to the estate in order to stop whatever Sutekh is planning. In the house, Namin and the mummy robots greet the arrival of Sutekh's servant, who travels through a space-time portal disguised as a sarcophagus. Sutekh's servant kills Namin and says just before the episode ends, "I bring Sutekh's gift of death to all human life." So I like all of the, ambiance, that sets up this story that happens in part 1, with the spooky house, the, Egyptian, quote-unquote, guy that's just playing the organ. That's I don't know. I like that.
He's apparently Palestinian, so not total brown face, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like swapping.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, in the ballpark for 1970s casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1970s casting, usually not anywhere near the ballpark.
Right.
Usually it's just Caucasians for all.
Right.
So at least that's something. I don't know.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cass, him like playing the organ while the mummies are rolling out was like,
Dude, yes.
big mood.
Hell yeah. It was honestly some of the most gothic horror stuff in this particular story, because I would say if I have any downside to the story for me, it's that it mostly takes place during the day. And I wish it didn't, because I think it would add so much more ambiance if it was at night.
At night, yeah.
Yeah. The daytime setting kind of robs it of a little bit of that gothic horror, I think.
I don't know. I think it would be difficult because they run around in the woods a lot, which I appreciate. I love the Doctor running around in the woods for some reason. But I think it would be much more difficult to shoot at night than running around in the woods.
Yeah, I remember thinking a few times that I much preferred the Doctor and the companion. I much prefer traipsing around a cool forest or woods area than like another quarry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, like it did at some point stop feeling like a cool gothic, almost Hammer horror story starring the Doctor, and it just became like a Doctor Who story with mummies.
Yeah. That's true.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Oh boy, does it have mummies.
Yeah. For sure. For sure, not a bad thing.
Sarah Jane finds a dress previously owned by Victoria.
Yeah.
On the TARDIS, and Nick understood that reference. Captain America.gif.
And I understood the Doctor not being amused.
Yeah.
By Sarah, like, look what I found, this stupid dress.
He's being such a drama queen at the beginning of this story.
He is.
Where for some reason he's just like disassociating, where he's like, I'm 750 years old. I've lived so long. I'm so powerful. Like he just
I've killed so many people.
He's just so extra at the beginning of this.
I thought a lot of because we just recently watched Tomb of the Cybermen, a lot of the parallels in this one were interesting. Like the mention of Victoria, like we get another age drop of how old he is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, I don't know if it's the first time he's said where Gallifrey is. But we get like the constellation of Casterbarus or whatever. Not in this part, but yeah, I don't know.
It was very It was very Tenet.
Yeah.
When he was just like brooding, like, you don't get me.
Yeah.
I've seen things.
Sarah Jane.
You want to like, you almost want to like I want to see how many Doctor Who fan videos use the 10 music, the like, like that music, the little operatic, like when things are getting drama, in the 10 era. How many fan videos use that music over this clip of him being like, I'm 750 years old. I've seen things, Sarah. Like, I want to know how many fan vids have done that, because I bet it's more than 12.
I can see the like super cut of like, you know, like this is the Doctor with like the Murray Gold score. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Fan vids.
So one fun thing that they do in this story that I think is super fun, playing with time travel, is that the whole story takes place in Unit HQ prior to Unit
existing,
headquartering there, buying the building or the land or whatever. So it's the same land, the same like mansion place, I don't know what you call it, compound that unit is set in, but they're there in 1911, way prior to unit being founded, and so it all takes place in unit headquarters but in a different time period, and I think that's really fun. I love when Classic Who plays with time travel in fun ways, because it doesn't happen as often as you'd want it to.
I think Robert Holmes in particular is really good about that.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best top tier classic Doctor Who writers for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about the idea of using it beyond just rudimentary back and forward, but using it as like a plot, as a tool.
Yeah. So, is this the original story that made Fez's cool?
Are they cool though? Because he dies. Like, he just
He
straight up
dies kind of cool.
Yeah, I
He
guess.
dies kind of cool.
But he accomplished his mission.
He does. He gets what he wanted, and then he changes.
Yeah. Into dust.
Full character arc.
Yeah, full character.
Yeah.
That guy, the herald or the servant, really cool costume.
Mm-hmm.
I really dug it.
Yeah, it is good. The doctor makes a racist relatives joke about
The sarcophagi.
yeah, somebody is like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, we just snuck in through a window." And and the guy is like, "Well, you must be here with that doctor guy, right?" And he's like, "Are we?" And he's like, "Yeah, I bet you are. He's Egyptian." And he's like, "Oh, are all of these his relatives?" Like talking about the sarcophaguses. And I'm like, "Wow, that's more racist than I'm used to coming out of the doctor's mouth."
Big dad, like dad be quiet joke.
Yeah, it's like a racist dad joke.
So
like
a dad
where it's
joke.
like it. Yeah, well, yeah, but like not all dad jokes are
No, I
racist,
know.
but all
Hashtag not all
all
dad
racist jokes are dad jokes.
Hashtag not all dad jokes.
It's like how all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So he's like, "You better go out the way you came." And he's like, "All right," and then they go back out the window, which is fun.
It's conveniently open.
Yeah, and then I love Four and Sarah Jane walking. He like crouch walks. He does like this weird it's like kind of like that Russian dance that you see that that Buddy the Elf does when he gets drunk on maple syrup and
Like a high kick kind of
in
dance.
Elf. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but he's like walking, like crouch walking, and it's something else.
Is he a tall gentleman? Tom
Yeah,
Baker?
so I found out
Yeah.
last night that Tom Baker is 6'3".
Yeah.
There's a mention at one point. I don't know what episode it is, but like he's unconscious, and Sarah Jane's like, "He's heavy, help me." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, is he tall?
Mm-hmm. He definitely is.
Is he the tallest doctor?
Maybe
Him
he
and
might be
Pertwee
actually.
are tied for our tallest doctor at both 6'3".
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
He's as tall as Pertwee. Is
Yeah.
that tall?
Yeah. So like the idea of
That
him
is-
karate chopping people is now like exponentially more terrifying.
That is bonkers. That would freak me out if I
Mhm.
met Pertwee and I was like looking up at him.
Hello, Scott.
That would freak me out. Oh wow, that is so weird.
Because he's not built like a
Yeah.
tall guy, right?
Jeez,
No.
Yeah.
The way, like Stephen Merchant.
that is menacing. Speaking of things that are menacing, Nick, you got a real kick out of Four using his scarf as a weapon.
that was great. Attack scarf.
Yeah.
Can you describe what happens in that moment?
He like tries to like take out a guard, like a piano wire, but it's a scarf, and it doesn't work because I don't think it really incapacitates him very.
He does get confused.
He's very confused. Yeah. It's also just like it gets bigger every time I see it. The scarf.
Yeah. I think it's
Longer.
Well, yeah, because I think the lady who made it like just kept adding to it,
Great,
like between episodes.
like Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dream.
Yeah, she would just keep adding to it, I think.
I think it's all one length in this era, and then post Hinchcliffe, like in season his like 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th season, it's like a different, longer scarf.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
yeah,
to
I'm
me, this
definitely-
is like prime scarf, but it's
Yeah.
still very long.
Yeah.
I'm into the idea of him using it the way like Rapunzel uses her hair. And
Yeah.
He does.
Great.
He definitely swings from more than one thing with his scarf,
Yes.
using his scarf.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the moment where Fez guy loses his Fez because that's who he attacks with the scarf,
Mhm.
and it knocks the Fez off his head, and then it never
He
recovers.
just becomes Guy.
Yeah, he just becomes guy with curly hair.
And then he becomes
Um,
dead.
And
Yeah, and
becomes
then he
dead.
becomes dead. So
really like the black sarcophagus. That main black sarcophagus.
Mhm. That's really good. I want to I want to really, really talk about these mummies because they are jacked. These mummies, there's no other way to describe these mummies other than jacked.
Cass, I likened them to the stone giant robot in Castle in the Clouds, Castle in the Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Okay. Top heavy listener.
Yeah.
Broad shouldered.
Right. It is what they are the same thing that Robert Downey Jr. called Chris Evans on the set of Avengers, which is Dorito shaped.
Yes, they are very Dorito shaped.
They are Dorito shaped. Very broad shoulders, very narrow waist, massive pecs.
Very interesting to see walking around the English countryside.
Yeah, whenever they're walking around, I just imagine them because there's like 3 of them. And so like whenever they're walking around, I just imagine them like internally all going hup, 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 hup.
And they're like paper mache kind of, so they very much have like the Mr. Kites circus thing from like across the universe, just like these weird paper mache things just running around the country.
Yeah. I kept referring to them as meathead mummies in my
That's funny.
in my notes.
Jock mummies.
Yeah,
sure.
jock mummies. Yeah. There's a moment in this too where Fez dude is playing the organ and they're like dancing choreography to the organ music.
It's great.
So good.
It's incredible. And their choreography calls out the true villain of this. Well, so we have 3 tiers of villain.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yes, exactly. It's true. So we start off with the Son.
Listener, that becomes another joke in a few episodes.
Yeah, that becomes. So we start off with the Son, I think, right?
The kind of herald, the servant.
Yeah. And with the Fez, and then the Father, he brings the Father out of the sarcophagus portal. And the Father fries the Son, which is how this episode ends.
Yes.
He like smokes him.
Yeah, and Sarah Jane and is this Dr. Warlock? Because it's the Doctor, Sarah, and a third person see this happening, but was that Dr. Warlock or was that the other guy?
I don't remember because a lot of the white dudes look the same.
They all look the same. They're all dressed the same and look the same.
Yeah.
I think it's the brother.
The brother.
Okay. Brother. Okay.
Lawrence.
Lawrence, yeah. Because Warlock got shot already, and so he's just chilling on a couch, I think.
Wearing a really fancy sling.
He doesn't do much.
Wow.
Well, he has a cool name though.
Yeah.
His name is Dr. Warlock.
So R.I.P. Fezhead. You will be missed. And then we move on to episode 2.
Mm-hmm. Pyramids of Mars Part 2, written by Stephen Harris, directed by Patty Russell, produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, script edited by Robert Holmes, air date November 1st, 1975. The servant of Sutekh is revealed to be the body of Professor Scarman, puppeted by Sutekh's will. Scarman and the mummy robots secure the estate's perimeter with a force field and start hunting down the humans still inside the barrier. Scarman finds and kills Dr. Warlock, but is ordered by Sutekh to start the construction of an Osiran war missile aimed at Mars. Meanwhile, the Doctor disrupts the space-time tunnel using the TARDIS key and takes Namin's ring from his corpse. After Sarah Jane suggests that they should just leave in the TARDIS, the Doctor takes her and Lawrence to 1980, only to find that the Earth is now a barren wasteland devoid of life. They have no choice. They need to return to 1911 and stop Sutekh. Once they get back to 1911, the Doctor makes a jamming unit with Namin's ring to break Sutekh's hold over Scarman and the robots. Lawrence tries to stop the Doctor from activating the device, since he believes doing so will kill his brother. A pair of the mummy robots kill a local poacher outside before attacking the hunting lodge. So the what are we calling him? The father? Like this alien?
The father, yes.
It's weird. He says that he's like the servant, and then he like possesses people, but then for the rest of the story, he just kind of refers to himself as the god.
Right.
Sutekh, what was his name?
Yeah, it's like I wrote it down.
Sutekh?
Sutekh.
He does. You're right. He does refer to himself as that. I think it's because he's like his emissary, and so he's like, as far as any of you jerks are concerned, I am Sutekh.
Like the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. I think that's the vibe.
More the mouth of Sauron than the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Right, but there's not a third. There's not a there's not a there's not an email of Sauron who precedes the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah, there's no like Silver Surfer for Sauron.
No. That's again, you just keep naming things that have two parts, and there's three tiers of people.
Yeah.
It's
funny.
There's no one between Silver Surfer and Galactus. It's just Silver Surfer and then Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like it's like if Silver Surfer also had a herald.
Yeah.
So this guy is going to come on a surfboard. It's going to be crazy.
And then he's going to tell you about Galactus.
And then he's going to tell you about another guy who's going to come that's even crazier.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the portal that comes out of the sarcophagus.
Yeah, it's like a rainbow bridge.
It's supposed to be like a time vortex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Or like not the time vortex, but like a time vortex.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
It'll come back later.
Yeah.
So when the father, the mouth of Sauron, I guess we should probably just refer to him from now on. As the mouth of Sauron takes on human form.
He becomes the guy from the Cold Open, right?
Right. He becomes the guy from the Cold Open, but like with pastier skin and like pink around his eyes, and just goes full blown Hammer horror guy. Like big Hammer horror energy from that guy in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I think their last names were like Strawman.
Scarman.
Scarman.
Yeah.
Scarman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the other guy's like, that's my brother.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Other. So this episode introduces a character that is like, just like, it's like a staple of Robert Holmes.
Oh my God,
like
yes.
it's the reason I love Robert Holmes is because every episode he does, he always introduces a character like this who has absolutely no bearing on the plot whatsoever. He's just like a normal dude,
Usually like a serf or a yokel, I guess, like a townie.
Who just sees something crazy, and then every once in a while we follow him reacting to the crazy thing that he's seeing. And in this episode, it's a hunter who catches a meathead mummy in a bear trap, and it was like goes to like investigate the bear trap, sees a mummy going stomp in the bear trap, and then is like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait this one out.
Howdy.
It's a very like Stephen King move where they do like introduce this character and make you follow them around just long enough to kind of get attached, and then they're just wantonly murdered and no one even notices or cares about it except you, the viewer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why do you always make me do that? Remember that time it was a married couple?
Yeah. Do.
It was a Pertwee episode, I think.
Yeah.
But it was like an older married couple out in the woods in a cottage that saw the alien for like their episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That was
Autons,
Terror of the
right?
Autons?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. The introduction of the master.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, good old Robert Holmes. You can always count on him to introduce that character. This will not be the only Robert Holmes story that we cover this season.
Right.
We got two.
Nice.
Which I'm pretty excited
As
about.
a treat.
As a treat.
There's a lot of parallels this season.
Yeah.
We'll get into it more.
Yeah. So
We already mentioned Victoria.
yeah, true. Yeah, so Hunter guy is like running away from the mummy, bear trap mummy, and then runs straight into an invisible force field.
Boy.
And then spends like 5 minutes like testing it out, like investigating
Well, he's
it,
just trying to get back to his
stuff at it.
house.
Yeah.
This was the moment where I thought in my head, like, at least this isn't a quarry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least this is like a cool woods area.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think it'll be the last time we visit Planet Rock Quarry this season,
No.
but you know, it is nice to get a little change of pace every once in a while.
Yeah.
Sure. I watch Star Trek. I know what's up.
let's see. We find out that the mummies are building rockets to Mars.
Yeah.
Because they're going to go blow up a pyramid in Mars with their rockets so that they can free Galactus from his...
Sutekh.
Yeah, Galactus.
Sutekh.
Yeah. Lifesaver.
I like
Orbit.
I like his I don't know, what would you call it? Like his mask, his helmet.
Yeah.
Better than his like creepy alien face.
The kind
His
of
dog face?
of Anubis kind of head.
Yeah.
All of the Egyptian god stuff was really cool. And I remember really getting into Egyptian mythology when I was like in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the canon of gods were really cool to me, and the iconography. So watching that communicated through like 80s or 70s Doctor Who, I thought everything was really great. I loved his like mask with the red anklets with like the design and the red and the black. I thought it looked really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did.
The
It
little
looked really
snake.
cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So my favorite moment of this episode is, well, no, that's not true. The Stompy Bear Trap is my favorite moment of this episode. But the mum, I put in my notes, Mummy Go Stompy. No, I love the moment where Sarah Jane is like, hey, so we're on the TARDIS. This all seems pretty hard. So why don't we just bail? And he's like, we can't just bail, stupid. Like, we have to help. And he's like, because if we don't, Sutekh is going to destroy the Earth. And she's like, Doctor, we both know that's not true. We're from 1980. Like, we know, we've seen it. We know that everything is safe back in good old 1980. And he's like, oh, you think so, huh? Okay. And so they travel to 1980 on the same timeline that they're on currently.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just absolutely decimated planet Earth.
Yeah,
Stock
this is kind
footage.
Yeah.
This is kind of the lesson that the Doctor learns again in like Planet 54, or which kind of communicates with the companions, which is like, yeah, like there are fixed points in time, but the adventures that we go on matter because things can happen and change, and the future that you think you know can become this new horrible future.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the thing where it's like, yes, you don't think that our adventure in the past matters because you've been in the future. But what you don't know is that because we're in the past now, we've already been in the past. So in your future, we've already saved the day in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the adventure we're on currently. So if we don't do this, then the future that you remember doesn't ever happen.
Ironically, Sarah would have done the thing that she thought couldn't happen.
Right. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's brutal and effective.
Mm-hmm.
We could see some cool stock footage of like a decimated, I don't know, it kind of turns Earth into the moon, I guess, is what it looked like.
Yeah. Really good. So then the hunter that's introduced in this episode gets crushed between two mummy pecs.
The weirdest death I've ever seen.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, it's so funny.
Scarman, the brother Scarman, runs out and he's like, what? And he sees like, the two mummy jocks just crush the gardener.
The gardener's head.
The gardener's head. Between their pecs.
Right. They just bump pecs with his head between them, and then he drops dead. Yeah.
Yeah, and while I was watching it, it was just
They're
like,
just chest bump.
death by mummy boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Who was he? What was his name? We'll never know.
Well, yeah. Death by chest bump. like literally, like they bump chest to kill somebody. If that's not the most broy meathead move, like, yeah,
very Buffy.
it is. These like, I just imagine these mummies saying bro a lot.
They're brobots.
Yeah, they're brobots. Oh, yeah. And then Sarah Jane gets strangled by a mummy and is probably going to die.
Cliffhanger.
And that's the cliffhanger to episode 2.
Pyramids of Mars Part 3. Written by Stephen Harris. Directed by Patty Russell. Produced by Philip Hinchcliffe. Script edited by Robert Holmes. Air date November 8th, 1975. One of the robots is destroyed in the struggle, and Sarah Jane uses Namin's ring to send the other back to Scarman. The Doctor then decides to blow up the partially assembled rocket, and Lawrence suggests using the blasting gelignite kept in the poacher's hut, because that's safe. The Doctor and Sarah Jane leave to retrieve the gelignite, ordering Lawrence to unwrap the bandages from around the shell of the deactivated robot. Professor Scarman soon comes to the lodge, and Lawrence attempts to reason with him, but is killed. After the Doctor and Sarah Jane return to the lodge and find Lawrence dead, the Doctor disguises himself as the disabled robot to go set up the explosives before Sarah Jane detonates them with a shot from a rifle. Sutekh manages to stop the explosion from happening using mental force. Out of options, the Doctor uses the space-time tunnel to appear before Sutekh and break his concentration, which allows the explosion to destroy the rocket. Furious, Sutekh blasts the Doctor with a beam of his mental force. The best part about this for me was Sarah Jane walking around in what looks like a wedding dress, carrying a rifle for most of the episode.
It
Hell
was
yes.
dope.
Hell yes.
Very Ready or Not.
Yeah.
When she was like scoping and getting ready to like shoot, and she like knew that she hit it. Yeah, she was a badass this whole episode.
Mm-hmm. In general, really good companion stuff in this episode.
Yeah.
I remember thinking throughout the episode, there was so many moments where their chemistry was just so unforced and so natural, and their back and forth. She was just so effortlessly like, I've done this a million times. I know what's up. I know what to do. And yeah, she was just the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Is she the closest to like a Clara we get on this show in terms of like she was with the third Doctor for like a full season and then she's with the fourth Doctor for 2 seasons, you know?
Yeah.
I think is that the closest we get to that? Because I know we have like Adric. But like Adric was only in like a couple of episodes.
Yeah, Adric was there for like 3 episodes.
Yeah, and then only like 5 episodes after that. Like
Nissa also technically.
Yeah, that's only like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like she seems like a veteran in the way that by the end of 12's run, Clara was just like a veteran.
Right. Yeah, totally. Really good. Yeah, I found that in this episode in particular, they have, you know, I think 4 reminds me of one of those guys who loves cracking jokes, but hates it when other people crack jokes or try to be funny.
He's very moody.
He's very moody in this. Yeah. So like, he doesn't quite have the same energy as 10, but their dynamic a lot of times reminded me of 10 and Donna. Just very platonic, but like also BFFs.
And like, yeah, no one knew how to get under the Doctor's skin more than Sarah Jane.
Yes, absolutely.
That no one knew how to just suddenly make 10 not feel cool or not look cool than Donna.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot of oys going on in this, but like kind of like that. Definitely a lot of oi vibes. Oi, like oi, like offended ois.
Like you don't have to be rude. You don't have to be a jerk just because you're the Doctor. You know?
Right. What's coming from both of them?
Oh, like and she, or like when the Doctor's being very callous about all the murders that are happening, and Sarah Jane kind of like you're being like what? Am I not acting human? Because I'm not human, Sarah Jane. I'm weird. Why do you think I always wear the scarf? Right? It's weird.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Jughead Doctor.
Jughead
Doctor. Actually 4 has like comic book Jughead vibes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Replace cheeseburgers with Jelly Bellies.
Yeah.
Jelly babies.
Oh man. Jelly Bellies. Sponsored by Jelly Belly.
Jughead has a sister named Jellybean.
Oh yeah, that's true. We get a look at a unwrapped mummy bot in this one. Pretty cool. I like the frame and the super thin robot underneath, like an automaton. It's a really cool design, actually. I like it a lot. I think it's cool. They like put the frame around it to make it look more intimidating than it actually is. It's actually like a stick figure.
Yeah.
That's how he is on the inside.
Yeah. It's really good. I like that.
They're kind
The
of
doctor
like
Oh no, please.
they're kind of like the droids in Star Wars, the
Super battle
the Roger
droids.
Roger ones, you know.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, they kind of are.
So the doctor tells Strawman at least 4 times. It's like, hey man, I know that guy looks like your brother. Your brother's dead. That's a shell. It's not your brother.
I just realized how crazy it is that his name is Strawman.
It's Scarman.
Scarman. Okay.
I keep saying Strawman.
Strawman. I mean, that's what he is. He is a strawman.
Yeah.
So
And so like, and at one point he like makes the mistake of being like, no, kill my brother, and like messes up a plan that they have,
Mhm.
which is why he has to stay behind. So then the quote brother, who's really the god's herald or servant, is like, hey man, and he's like, don't you recognize me? You're my brother. And it was just, I don't know, it was really sad. It was frustrating because like, it didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
He's dead.
And he kills him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's a moment in this story where the doctor dresses like one of the meathead mummies. And so this was a point of contention for Tom Baker in this, because he was like, no, I am not. I refuse to appear on screen where my face is not visible. And so he would not play the mummy, the doctor wrapped up as a mummy. They had to get a stunt double.
That's so
like
weird.
a body double. Yeah. And then he just did voiceover later. But yeah, he was
very
like
bored voiceover.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to show up on set just to have my face covered.
What a diva.
Yeah, it was like a big deal. I honestly, I kind of want to, I read that in the behind the scenes stuff and I was like, well, that's a red flag of a lot of stuff that's going to come up later, guys.
Yeah.
Because he just, I feel like that's his first diva moment and it just keeps getting worse once he got away with that
episode.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Once he gets away with that, it's just like in the future it gets rough on the old
Yes.
Doctor Who set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Frasier level.
Yeah. Maybe worse.
Wow.
Yeah. It gets pretty rough. Let's see. Yeah. And then the Doctor goes into the sarcophagus portal and
Goes to Mars.
yeah. Gets attacked by green light eyes.
I love that he hisses. And then
Yeah.
it's like hiss and then like it ends. It's really
Very
funny.
cat-like, yeah.
Yeah. Pyramids of Mars Part 4. Written by Stephen Harris. Directed by Patty Russell. Produced by Philip Hinchcliffe. Script edited by Robert Holmes. Airdate November 15th, 1975. Sutekh decides not to kill the Doctor outright and interrogates him instead, finding out he is a Time Lord. He locates the TARDIS and forces the Doctor to use it to transport Professor Scarman to the Pyramids of Mars in order to destroy the Eye of Horus, which keeps him imprisoned. Once on Mars, Scarman has the Doctor strangled by one of the mummy robots and proceeds inside the pyramid. The Doctor is able to recover, and now free of Sutekh's influence, he and Sarah Jane follow Professor Scarman through a series of chambers with logic puzzles in each one. They are unable to stop Scarman from destroying the eye, but the Doctor realizes that Sutekh won't be released for 2 minutes due to the time required for the eye's radio signal to travel from Mars to Earth. The Doctor and Sarah Jane return to the Scarman estate and use the TARDIS to extend the time-space tunnel into the far future, which results in Sutekh dying of old age before reaching the end of it. As a result of this, though, the portal overloads, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane leave in the TARDIS as the house is consumed by flames. Shout out to the guy who voices Sutekh because his voice is like super great. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like into it. It's kind of
Just
like
the
evil
part-
and whispery.
Yeah.
Yeah, the part where the Doctor is trying to explain where Gallifrey is, and he's just like, names me nothing, like literally tell me the coordinates.
Yeah,
of, like,
yeah.
Oh, like this is like an ancient
Mm-hmm.
evil.
Yeah. It's really good. This is my favorite episode of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a really good story, and like I love all of it, but like this one in particular, I think is the best episode. because it's like the doctor's brainwashed for a while, or faking being brainwashed or whatever. I don't know that it's completely clear which one it is, if he snaps out of it or if he was never brainwashed.
Oh, he snaps out of it because he's just like,
Okay.
oh, I don't need this thing anymore, so I'm just gonna just boop.
Oh, okay.
And then he gets strangled.
Yeah.
So, Doctor and Sarah Jane like go into the Pyramid of Mars and are like going to like each part of the tomb, where like outside of each door there's like a puzzle that they have to solve. And so it's just a series of like puzzles and riddles.
It's like a D&D module.
Yeah, it really is. And it rules. I love it. There's this moment too where they get ahead of the other team, and the other team is ahead of them, and they walk into the room and then in unison turn around and leave.
Yes, that's the best.
It's the best. It might be one of my absolute favorite like tiny moments in all of Classic Who. It's just so good.
And it's very them.
Yeah. It's very Ten and Donna.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it has that vibe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Big Ten Donna energy for sure.
I want to say early on in this episode, the doctor is, can I get the god's name one more time?
Sutekh?
Sutekh. Is like,
I'm glad you're doing these recaps, Cass.
The doctor's like, every culture, I know, every culture that's civilized hates you, Sutekh. They go by many names, like Satan. And I was like, oh, this is not the last time he's going to meet up with Satan this season.
Mhm.
Yeah, this season.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just wanted to point that out.
The devil.
The devil.
The devil. We do a version of the this one tells only truths, this one tells only lies. You may ask one question.
Uh-huh.
We do a version of that riddle.
What do you guys think of first? I think of Labyrinth.
I don't even know what I think of first, because I guess I just know that story.
Yeah, it's super tropey, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if it originated in Egyptian mythology.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm not
We'll look
sure.
at it later.
Yeah. I don't know where that comes from. I'm sure someone knows. I'm sure the internet knows. I'm sure we could find it. But yeah, really, really fun solution to that problem too. Of just like, and the doctor didn't even have to think about
He
it.
clears it. Yeah.
Yeah, he like clears it fast. He doesn't have to really even like think.
FOH.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, okay, so which one is your buddy gonna tell me to push?
Mhm.
Okay, so then that means that has to be the lie. All right. And then it goes and pushes the other one. It's pretty great. It's good. It's good, logical solution. Good
Good Doctor Whoing.
Yeah, good Doctor Whoing. top notch Doctor Whoing. Let's see. The Silver Surfer Mouth of Sauron guy is like, hey, he's free. Oh no, I'm turning to ashes, and then the ashes are gone too. Like it's crazy. He's like, free, and then turns into ashes, and then the ashes disappear.
So many people die in Robert Holmes stories. Why do we like them so
Yeah.
much?
Well, the ancient Egyptians believed that death was only the beginning.
I mean, yeah, but like,
I know that because that's a quote from the Mummy on the Mummy roller coaster. He says, death is only the beginning, and then your roller coaster takes off. Yeah. The second part of death is a roller coaster, as it turns out.
That happens after everyone dies. They have to go
but that ride blows.
What?
That roller coaster sucks.
No, that roller coaster rules. What are you talking
The
about?
one in
Here we
LA
go.
or the one in Florida?
Oh, no, the one in Florida. I don't care
the one
about the
in
one
LA
in LA.
sucks.
Yeah, the one in LA, I don't, it's not even,
It's truncated, from my understanding.
Yeah.
it's truncated, and it's not meta. It's not about the making of the Mummy
Oh,
movies.
none of the Brendan Fraser stuff is in the LA one?
None of
No.
it. You're just in a legitimate like temple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
It's
because
like
a heck of a
discount
performance.
Indiana
I know.
Jones. It sucks.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
Wrong podcast. Sorry.
Yeah.
Theme park this. Listen to theme park this.
Listen to our retheme this episode of Revenge of the Mummy. Available now to Patreon subscribers.
Scott rethemes it as a Pyramids of Mars theme park.
I if I had thought of it, I would have. But no, I think I did Cabin in the Woods instead.
Oh.
This episode ends very abruptly.
It does. Everything gets set on fire.
Like Ready or Not, it ends with a mansion on fire.
That's true. That is true.
Not super spoilers, Ready.
And also, most of the people are dead.
Yeah, everyone's dead.
That's more of a spoiler. But yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like that. I like that everything. They're like, well, we can't move out all of this stuff. We'll just burn it all down to make room for Unit.
So that's how that happens.
Yeah. But this is great. I don't know. What do you guys think of this story? Nick, what do you think about
I
Pyramids
couldn't
of
tell
Mars?
if it was the going from 6 episode to 4 episodes, or like Scott said, the fourth one being kind of like the most entertaining and the most dramatic. But yeah, like this was a lot of fun, and it got better. I loved Sarah Jane and Elizabeth Sladen and the Doctor and Sarah Jane's chemistry. And I thought so many of the designs of the creatures and the robots and the villains were really cool. And like Cass said, yeah, like a really cool villain in the final episode.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to watching this one again because it's been like 8 or 9 years or something since I've seen it. I made Norman watch it with me. He fell asleep halfway through, but whatever. He saw the good parts.
You've either got the classic Who gene or you don't. I mean, it's I feel like you're either going to be like into this or you're not going to be into it, and there's no like convincing you.
Well, no, because he grew up watching Tom Baker stuff, like reruns on PBS, and I was like, oh, so have you seen this one? And he's like, no, and I'm like, oh, this one's great, and then like he was just sleepy.
All right, fair enough.
They're cozy.
Yeah, I'm glad that it held up as well as I remembered it. I was worried about like hyping it up too much and then being like, oh, this one's not that great, actually.
Yeah.
But
it's still not my favorite of this season. That's still a couple seasons away, but
the season being Tom Baker wise?
Yeah, the Tom Baker wise. Yeah. Sorry, not TDC season, but Tom Baker season. This season of Tom Baker, there's another story that is actually my favorite of this season. It might be my favorite. Huh?
Mind of Evil or no?
No, that's Third Doctor.
Mind of Evil? What's the one with the stuff?
Brain of Morbius.
Brain of Morbius. Is that your favorite one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Is it the living vampire in Morbius?
No. If only. No. It's but it rules. So that one's my favorite. We're still a couple of TDC seasons away from that. I think it's the 10th episode, 10th story of Tom Baker's Doctor. But I'm really excited about getting into that one. But I do really, really love this one. This is like a close second, I think, of this in this season. It's really good. Just in general, this era is just so not fun to revisit because even the not so great ones are still like pretty watchable.
Yeah, and for my money, judging this against what we just watched with the Pertwee era, this to me is much more like kind of what I get out of Doctor Who, which is like mood and him running around and solving problems as opposed to like multiple gunfights.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I would have killed to see Pertwee karate chop some of those
mummies,
meathead mummies. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Pretty great.
6'3".
Yeah.
Chops.
Hell yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, I guess is that all we got here this
what's
week?
next?
I think so.
Next week is Arc of Infinity. Fifth Doctor.
Is that
Arc of
a six-parter?
Infinity. No.
Is that the one the Brigadier's in? Or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think we're at that trilogy of stories yet.
Okay.
Is it related to Arc in Space?
I think this is no, I don't think so. This is, I think, Omega.
Yeah.
I think.
Hey.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's
our old friend Omega.
Yeah. So anyway, that is coming next week. Check out our Patreon page, duelinggenre.com/support. We do have a patron goal. 100 patrons is what we're trying to reach. And when we do, we will introduce a bonus show on a Dueling Genre podcast. One of those bonus podcasts that will be up to a vote for our patrons will be a TDC spinoff show where we focus on Doctor Who spinoffs like Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, and K9. And also some Big Finish spinoffs like Diary of River Song or the War Doctor or,
always wanted to get into those.
Yeah. So, all of those spinoffs is what we would be covering on that spinoff show. So if that's something that you're interested in doing or having us do, and that would be a main feed show, not a Patreon show, so it would be open to everyone, but we'll need your help to get to the goal and then also to vote on that particular show. So all of that, all of the information on that is at duelinggenre.com/support. You can support us for as little as $3 a month and you'll gain access to like 500 podcasts. I'm not even exaggerating. It's like 500 podcasts that are on our Patreon podcast feed. And you'll just gain access to all of them just for subscribing for $3 a month.
Like us talking about every episode of Class.
That's true. That's on there. You can get that on there.
We go crazy.
That feels like a million years ago.
It is. You'll have to scroll back a ways, but it's on there. Yeah. It's there.
It's us losing our minds over the course of like 8 episodes.
Yeah, it's true. So check that out. Once again, that is duelinggenre.com/support. And we will be back next week with Arc of Infinity. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.